Hello and welcome to the Meaning Project podcast. I am your host, Dr. Daniel A. Franz. As always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day. So, do you want to talk about ketamine again? Because I'm ready to. I don't know if I am, to tell you the truth. Um, I am still working, I believe, on integrating my last ketamine experience just about a week ago in Colorado, of all places, as part of my training for the Integrated Psychiatry Institute's certification in psychedelic-assisted therapy, and specifically in ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, what we call. Um, wow, what an experience! Like I said, I woke up from the experience the next day and journaled, and I was so excited to share with you. But I tell you what, I feel like today I'm still working on the integration process, and we know integration can take a little bit of a little bit of time, kind of internalizing it, learning from it, etc. But I certainly wanted to bring it to you as soon as possible for you to have the information and for you to make some decisions because as part of my certification, I am certified here now. The training will be ongoing through well, next year. Um, but I am authorized to engage in ketamine assisted therapy. There's many ways to do ketamine assisted therapy. And this is what I found through my training. Right now, we're using ketamine to treat several distinct mental illnesses, TRD or treatment resistant depression, hard to treat depression. And as you may have heard in previous podcasts, I've seen amazing results in hard to treat depression for the past several years. I'm a believer in ketamine's effect on treatment resistant depression. It's helpful for OCD, general mental health issues. But of course, as a logotherapist, I like using it for its meaning discovery opportunities. As you've heard in a previous podcast, ketamine can help you go inside your own self, your own mind, and do some personal development in a relatively short amount of time. So I jotted down some notes this morning before hitting the record button, and it was kind of funny. The notes I threw down on this document here were, oh, I don't know, antiseptic, sterile. They were sterile. And then, because I just wanted to get some general ideas down. And then I went back into uh, the journal I keep for these experience in this class and this research, the Journal of the Psychonaut. And the writings I wrote there, as well as my training partner, they were heartwarming. They were robust. They were yummy, as one of my trainers liked to say. So I'll dive into both the sterile notes and the more robust notes to share with you. I know a lot of people out there, a lot of listeners said they're excited to hear about this. So once again, a few weeks ago, in preparation for this practicum, I worked with a local business partner, Julie Addis of the business Ketamine is Hope. You can find her at ketamineishope.com to experience ketamine for the first time. I am not a casual psychedelic user, never have been, but I'm a believer in this training, in this new year we are entering into, somewhat in opposition to big pharma and the daily pill. Ketamine is an occasional treatment that seems to have lasting effects. So I'm a big believer. I wanted to learn about it. I am learning about it, but I wanted to sample it before I went to this practicum. And you can listen to that experience on a previous podcast just a few weeks ago. That was an individual experience by myself in a room hooked up to an IV. That's one way to administer ketamine. That is the most powerful way because, as you might assume, ketamine in an IV goes straight into the bloodstream and takes effect in about 10 or 12 minutes. Interestingly, the practicum was an intramuscular IM injection, and somehow that takes effect a lot quicker. It is a slightly weaker effect because it's not going right into the bloodstream, but it does take effect. And I'll tell you, our psychiatrist doctor said, "Well, don't worry, this will just hurt a little bit." Man, that injection site was sore for a while, but it was so well worth it. So, Practicum, an experience aimed towards education, towards that certification. We zipped out, we being my wife and I. She loves Colorado as much as I do. We vacation there often and enjoy showing friends and family, what we've experienced there. So she went out with me, got up bright and early. What morning was that? Wednesday morning. Worked late Tuesday, got up bright and early Wednesday morning, headed off to the airport at 5 a.m. to catch I don't know, should have been 6 a.m. I think it was 7 a.m. flight. We made it. Well, we got to the initial airport just in time. Of course, there was a delay, and then had to sprint through Minneapolis Airport, a place I've never been. Um, I mean, seriously, I it probably looked like a fool trying to get from uh, gate 17A to gate 12C, whatever it was, sprinting down those little rolling treadmill floors. Stepped into the gate just in time and got there. Not want to start a psychedelic practicum, but we made it into Denver in time, grabbed a rental car, and intentionally planned some early time just to get in, to relax, to meet with the good friend of the podcast, my dear friend, Dr. Rabbi B. Um, Hung around Denver for a little bit, saw the area, and very metropolis. Went to a art exhibit called Meow Wolf. It's an interesting place, I think, meant for psychedelic journeys. It was very black light, different colors. Um, very, very interesting place. We met up with B, had dinner with him and his wife. They invited us to stay at their house the first night. It was wonderful catching up with him. More adventures with B coming up here soon and probably into the next year. Um, Funny, being 2 hours different in time zone, we were up early and I was catching up on emails Thursday morning. Boy, it all blends together. Thursday morning, and being his wife and kids were getting up and milling about, going about their day. And my wife and I, we kind of had just an easy travel day. Practicum didn't start till Friday. So we dipped up towards the practicum to Boulder, college town, University of Colorado is, and had a little breakfast and kind of just meandered about, and then realized it was only 10 o'clock in the morning. And I always thought Golden was a cool place. So we zipped down to Golden and saw that area and drove up to a relative. My cousin, younger cousin, is in Morrison, right down the road from the Red Rocks Amphitheater. I didn't realize that. And we hung out with him. And I'm telling you, through these adventures and drives and talking to B, I mean, we were darn near convinced to move to Colorado that week. So part of the adventure while I was in class was my wife was literally looking at communities and houses thinking, boy, this would be a great place to move to. And I think that's still on my mind a little bit. But yeah, kind of zipped around and wound up in Longmont. Um, Longmont and Boulder are probably about 30 minutes apart. And the school that I attend, the Integrative Psychiatry Institute, is right in between them. Sweet little building, kind of Farmville-esque, except not farms, just fields and mountains. It was truly beautiful. Beautiful place. I could walk out the back door, just a little office complex, several other offices there. Walk out the back door and stand and stare off into the mountains. And I did that repeatedly throughout this practicum experience. So, admittedly, Thursday had a good time. Going into Thursday evening, I'm nervous. This is I've studied with this people on the screen for a long time, but really haven't met anybody personally except in my small group. My small group was not out there. Nobody from my small group was out there, but there were a few meetings beforehand where we would, catch in and chat with each other, but um, not really get to know each other very well. So first day, I was not on the shuttle bus. There was a recommended hotel in Boulder. We did not stay there. We stayed up in Longmont by choice. And there were several other people that, did not stay at the designated hotel, and maybe they lived in the area or just kind of drove in. And so I got there, and staff were running about kind of getting set up, and there were a few other students there. And I sat down and chatted with Tanya from oh boy, I'm never getting this right. It's spelled Arvada, Arvada, Arvuda. I don't. Uh, Here's the thing. They tell you when you mispronounce Arvada, Arvada. I think it's Arvada. When you mispronounce Arvada, they know you're not a local. Obviously, I'm not. And I wasn't trying to be, but Tanya from Arvada, and we just kind of caught up and chatted and, talked about being prepared for this, getting excited for this experience. And so as we're chatting, another gentleman strolls in the front door and pronounces loudly, "I'm here." And we were soon to find out that is Dan, ironically, another bald Dan who's a substance abuse therapist. How crazy is that? You should actually check out his YouTube channel. I'll put it in the show notes. Dan Ronkin is a substance abuse therapist in Boulder, who specializes in psychedelic-assisted substance abuse therapy. He's got a great YouTube channel with videos about that. And you might, you might assume he's a bit of a heretic in the substance abuse world because, um, well, there's that abstinence model, and using other substances to cure substance abuse and addiction is not always good. But anyway, Dan strolls in, pronounces "I'm here," and then realizes there's already other people here. He thought he was the singular person leading the shuttle, and pronouncing to the other staff members that he was here. So he got a little embarrassed, but it was quite sweet. I got to know Dan pretty well throughout the weekend, and good dude. So. Um, we all start meeting, we get together, we go into the big group room. It is set up in a circle of these very cool kind of floor-based yoga chairs, right? So we're like on the floor, but comfortable. There's all kinds of yoga mats and pillows, and we get in this corner, in this circle. The staff is sitting in front of this beautiful, huge painting that I have a small picture of, but it was actually commissioned by the leaders of the school, Dr. Will Vanderveer and Keith Verlander. Boy, I don't know if I'm getting those right. Um, and it's just very earthy and spiritual and modern but past. It's I'll try to put a picture of it on my website. But so we get in there and we go. Let's see. I'm trying to remember the agenda again from different parts of notes. Yeah, we kind of sit down and do introductions. Yeah, yeah. Kind of get to meet each other, learn each other's intentions, and go into um, kind of a what they call an altar ceremony. Part of the journey, part of the practicum, was to bring an item, a token, a totem, something important to you to kind of keep in your mind, to keep grounded throughout the experience. And it was ironic because the two days are somewhat alike. People brought pictures of their loved ones, books of my partner Greg brought a photo book of his dog. Um, Very meaningful things. And Dan, the other Dan, apparently he had self-diagnosed a little bit of ADD. Forgot to do that. He was, something changed in his schedule. He forgot to bring a totem. He's a staff member, not necessarily his thing. So he took a post-it note and wrote his name on it, and that was his intention. And as I'm listening to him, I'm thinking about what's in my pocket because quite similarly, leaving for the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning. Um, it was on my mind, but it wasn't truly in my heart to have something. And so I found on my nightstand a couple of Stoic coins that I keep, right? Coins that remind me memento mori, and all those other Stoic phrases, as well as a coin of Saint Benedict, kind of a very Saint Benedict was one of the first Catholic monks or priests to kind of set up rules for monasteries back in several hundred years ago. But I had studied him in my doctoral studies and was really interested in his work. So I just grabbed a stack of coins, threw it in my backpack. Bam, we're off to the airport. And as people are going around the circle with these heartfelt intentions and what they want to gain from this experience, I'm jiggling these coins in my pocket, thinking, "Ugh, that is just so lame." And as it comes to me, I actually share that story. I'm like, man, I didn't really plan for this. And if you'll remember, most of my days in therapy, my clinical days, I have a little bit of manly jewelry on my watch, a bead of prayer, prayer bead, a chain of prayer beads, and then a gift that was given to me by, oh, interesting, another Dan, about 6.5 years ago, right before my mother passed away, and it's a bracelet of yak bone skulls. And there's just a whole big story behind that. I've shared it before, but it is meant to be a reminder to live your life meaningfully, that we will all die, but to live meaningfully and with compassion. And I looked at that and I thought about using that as my intention, as my totem. But if you remember from my previous ketamine journey, um, there was some music that reminded me of my mother, and I wasn't ready to deal with her passing. Again, it's been 6 years. I thought I'm pretty well integrated with that, but in a way, I'm not, or at least through that experience, I wasn't. So I said, no, I'm not sure I'm going to use that. And then I'm like, what do you? And I looked at my other hand. I'm like, oh my goodness, I had a pen in my hand because I was journaling. And of all the pens, I keep a lot of pens in my backpack, plenty of pens, right? Because pens are power. Pens are the ability to take what's in your mind and make it real in writing. But this was a unique pen. This was a pen with that said Purdue. Your daughter gave me that pen when she headed off to college some 4 or 5 years ago. And I was reminded of some of the struggles we had had in our relationship recently and the struggles that she was having with school and Purdue. And I said, maybe my intention is for my daughter. My intention is to repair that relationship and see what I can do to help her and where she's at in life. And so that's what I shared in the circle. But you know what? When it was time to go place our item on the altar, which was really beautiful and simple, it was a bowl of water with some flowers in it and some leaves and candles on the floor in the center of our area. Um, Nothing, not a true stone altar or anything, but when it came time to place our items up there, I took both. I took that yak bone skull bracelet and and that pen, and I put them up there. And I said to myself, maybe my intention is for some seeking. Um, I wrote here in my journal, my intention is for healing and direction. How to be with the important women in my life, my wife, my mother, my daughters. And so that was my intention, to see where my mind took me in that. And so we get through the that part of it. It's probably about lunchtime. And we have to do, I couldn't eat because I was actually receiving ketamine the first day. And we ordered lunch from this amazing, healthy, very earthy Colorado restaurant. I think I like the first day I had like a couscous salad with steak that I couldn't eat until afterwards. Um, and so, yeah, we went into our mini med consultations where I met with Dr. Rohini, who is, golly, she is just this amazingly wise woman who always has the most beautiful, intelligent things to say. Um, and she calls everybody love. Oh, it's just, she's so amazing. So yeah, mini med consults. I'm jazzed. I'm jacked. I'm excited. Maybe a little nervous. Excited to be talking to people. And so my blood pressure is right on the no-no range. And usually my blood pressure is very healthy. And she just kind of looks at me and says, I'll check back later. And so I dodged her for the rest of the afternoon because I was going to be fine. I'm used to my blood pressure being elevated through exercise and running. This was going to be no different. So, um, yeah. I kind of went through the mini med consult. We were to meet with our partners, and I was partnered with Greg. Greg, once again, another substance abuse therapist, originally from the I don't know. He sounds like Brooklyn, maybe Buffalo. Got a great New York accent. Lives in Austin now, spent time in an ashram in North Carolina. He is, when we talk about spirituality and religion, I'm like, well, he was raised Catholic. I'm like, do you still subscribe to those beliefs? He's like, no, I'm a mystic. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, well, one day 15 years ago, got rid of everything that I couldn't pack in my station wagon, and I drove to an ashram in the Carolinas, and I lived there with a bunch of monks for a year. I'm just like, wow, that was kind of crazy. So, um, Greg was cool. Greg, he and I, he shared in the circle about a lot of anger he wanted to deal with, a lot of frustration in the world. Again, this was just post-election, and not everybody in our sharing circle or practicum was excited about the uh, election results, and some were quite crestfallen, quite heartbroken, and he certainly was. So Greg and I met, kind of connected really well. You know, a very just very spiritually, definitely a brother in treatment. So we meet. He gets to go eat lunch, and I'm, blood pressure's up, feeling a little nervous. I go out in the backyard of the building or on the side, whatever it was. Just spent some time with the mountains, and there I met Lance. Lance was also Journey. Lance from the East Coast. Lance was fairly quiet throughout the day, didn't have, much to share, and so we just kind of connected a little bit and talked about the experience, shared our, probably our nervousness, I would guess. And then it was time. We During that time of lunch, the staff were preparing our nests, which were basically really comfortable mats on the ground with sheets and a pillow and an amazing headset. This was really a cool part. All the headsets were synced together in this very expensive system, so that all of the people taking ketamine that day, the journeyers, were on the same playlist at the same time, and those sitting with us, our partners, those practicing being a therapist at that time, had an ambient speaker, a speaker in the room, so that they also knew they were in tune with what music was going on, so they could journal for us, so they could note maybe what music or what time things were going on, because it's very helpful to go back to the playlist to kind of integrate, to remember some of the experience. So, I went to the area where I was sitting that morning anyway, and I kind of got into my nest, and Greg sat next to me on those amazing yoga chairs. And then I realized, dang it, I chose the wrong spot because the Rohini and her nurse assistant were starting on the other side of the room. So I basically was going to sit and be one of the last to be administered. And admittedly, I was a little disappointed in that. However, it turned out to be really beautiful because I got to watch several of my peers embrace the ketamine and go into their journeys first, and that was really cool. One of them being Lance. And Lance, as quiet as he was, really started enjoying the ketamine journey. It is quite ecstatic, euphoric even. And so he's going into it and really just grooving with it, saying things like, wow, man. And oh, that's awesome. He's really enjoying it and kind of laying there dancing with it. It was cool to observe. And so they get around to me, and Rohini offers a beautiful little prayer and asks me if I'm ready. I said, yep, go ahead. And she jabs my right arm. I really want to go left arm. Jabs my right arm with the needle. And I look at Greg and I give him a smile and a little fist bump. And I say, all right, I'll see you in a little while. And I was the first or last in, or one of the last in. And really, it was beautiful music. I put my headphones on. I could hear a little bit outside my headphones, and just enjoying the experience. Some good visuals. Just feel very, very warm. I did different from last time. I chose to wear an eye mask Most of us did with my headphones, just to kind of go inside a little bit more. And I think it really had a lot to do with the group preparation process. I felt very comfortable, very safe in that room to truly allow myself to embrace the ketamine experience. Um, so I went in and enjoyed it. Beautiful music, some ambient noise. I remember a lot of deep breathing and a lot of smiling. And Greg, even in my notes here, documented that. I remember thinking of one of our staff members, a psych nurse practitioner, Corrine, very, just a very sweet soul, a sweet spirit, and always smiling. And I just imagined her smile, and I felt that. I just felt myself smiling really big. And Greg even documented it. It just looked like I was really embracing it and enjoying it and having a good time. And uh, wouldn't you know? Oh, a little bit in, probably about 10 minutes in. This frustrated me. Not large. Greg pulled me out of the journey because asked if I wanted a booster dose. So we got a main dose. I got 62 milligrams, right? So Rohini went with you dose ketamine per kilogram of weight. And you can start with zero point 0.5 milligrams. I had done that with Julie. Rohini decided to go with 0.65 milligrams. And then if for some people they may not be experiencing it as they want to, you can ask for a booster, which is half the original dose. And Greg kind of he took the headphones off. He's like, "Hey, do you want a booster?" And it really pulled me out. And I was like, I was enjoying it so much. I was in such a good place. I'm like, no, I'm good. Today, I wish I would have, just because yeah, I was one of the last in and probably one of the first out. So I processed the ketamine really quickly. And I was just it was in a good place. I was really enjoying it. And one of the things I got out of the journey, besides that kind of warm embrace from space, they say, as I've told you before, Emily, one of the therapists in Boulder, that's also one of our instructors, says, "Oh, where is that? It's up here somewhere." Oh, yes, psilocybin is a punch in the face. Ketamine is a view from space, and MDMA is a warm embrace. And unfortunately, we won't be experimenting with MDMA because of the recent trials. But I've found ketamine to be a warm embrace and a view from space. But it was very cool. My my intentions were met. Um, I visited with my mom unexpectedly, and she came to me with a glass of wine because that was always her thing when she was alive. She said, "Hey, you're doing great. Okay. You're doing fine with these girls, with your daughters, and everything's going to be all right." I said, "Okay. Thanks, Mom." And she went on her way, and I went on my way. It was good. And it was interesting. I was reminded when I spoke to one of my clients here back at home about his ketamine experiences. He said, people I see or visions are often outlines and not really the people. I'm like, oh, that's it. That was an outline of her. It wasn't like I didn't see her features, but it was like a warm, soothing embrace outline. So, yeah, came back and Greg was ready to chat and integrate, and he's taking notes. I guess about, let's see, if I went in at dosed at 211 and at 251, I told him, man, I just feel a profound peace. And I started coming out, and Rohini came and discharged me so I could get up. We walked around a little bit, still a little woozy, admittedly, and kind of went outside. It's funny. It was 45 degrees in that area in Boulder, Longmont. But man, if you went out into the sun, it was beautiful. You actually were warm. The sky was a vibrant blue. And we talked a little bit, and Greg took more notes. And um, I wanted to get my lunch, and I just wanted to go look at the mountains, and I did. I started. Oh, that was one of the funny ones. I asked Greg. I said, "Man, I was hearing this ambient noise through my headphones, like somebody sighing deeply. And I remember like I didn't know if somebody was in distress. I was worried about Lance. And that's where the kind of the helper in me came out. I'm like, man, I really want to go check on Lance and see how he's doing. He sounded these deep sighs or different from the laugh. I said, Greg, was Lance in distress? Was he really sighing? And he kind of giggles and he looks at me. He goes, no, dude, that was you. Apparently, my deep breathing exhales were sighs of enjoyment, sighs of maybe relief. But boy, I felt those throughout my journey. But they also say ketamine is like a good brain scrub, and my brain just felt pure, clean, delicious. And you want to embrace that for a while after a ketamine experience. And so I just wanted to go stare at the mountains, eat my little steak salad, and let's see, what else are my notes? 417, big, kind of stood and stared at the mountains, and 317 had my lunch, kind of integrated a bit, talked to some other people. 410, my notes say, and then I checked my phone and went back to the real world. Um, Shortly after that, 417 went to the Sky office. They have the offices labeled Sky, Mountain, etc. For some peace and writing. Just wanted to be by myself and kind of journal a bit. Others were kind of congregating and chatting. People were doing different things. And I wrote, today's journey was just mostly peaceful, pleasant, and enjoyable. Um, I started writing some business notes because I'll be hosting a retreat here in January, looking at the different things they had and what I think I might need to host a retreat. Um, and then that was it for the day. We got back into our kind of integration circles, talked a little bit, kind of a closing circle. We were out by 5:30. My wife picked me up because, boy, I tell you, should not be driving after a ketamine experience. And each time I've had ketamine, I totally realized that. Um, we went, grabbed a little dinner, got back to our hotel. I think I was in bed by 8:30 and ready to sleep. Now again, mountain time was 2 hours different from what I'm usually used to, so it was pretty similar to my normal time that I go to bed. But I woke up on fire. My like in a positive way. My brain was just ready. I wanted to process. I wanted to integrate, as we call it. Um, so I got up, made a cup of coffee, and started writing, not realizing making a cup of coffee in a tiny hotel room with my wife sleeping would wake her up. And she was so awesome. She really wanted to attend to, hey, what do you need? What are we gonna do? Let's go for a walk. Let's do something. And I just wanted to write. But I also one of the things I realized through my journey, sometimes I'm a caregiver, right? I'm somebody that cares about other people, and I wanted to, as much as she wanted to care for me, I'm like, yeah, I want to care for you. Let's go for a walk. Um, some of the things I wrote after that, or during that, maybe while she was waking up, uh, frustration. I don't feel like maybe I have um the trauma, the vicarious trauma maybe that some of my peers did. However, I did go in with a very positive and thoughtful intentions. Today, the next morning, I just feel good. Not like I need to integrate a bunch more. And then I wrote though, am I avoiding some kind of mom-related trauma, some grief, or am I just past it? Um, yeah, here I am at 6 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. Most of my thoughts this morning are about how to share this with others. The group process, being in a group, was amazing. And I was really excited to share that with Greg today, share my experience with him, and to embrace him in his journey. Uh, do we need to move to Colorado in order for me to work in this way? Um, how would that affect my current clients? And what would they see this as inspiring or as leaving them? So, a lot of my thoughts towards my practice, helping others, things like that. Got up, and so the hotel we chose the hotel in Longmont for a reason. There was a beautiful path and creek behind it in a somewhat industrial area right behind it. But if you turn and look to the west, there they were. And I'm pretty sure it was Long's Peak, one of the tallest mountains in the in the Front Range, but it was just beautiful to watch the sunrise and change the color and shades of the mountains. So that's Saturday. My wife takes me to the school, and we go in for some yoga, trauma-informed yoga with a true yogi, flowing robes and everything. It was beautiful, and did yoga for about an hour, and it was just so restorative. It was restorative for those of us who had journeyed the day before, and preparatory for those getting ready to go into it. And interestingly, this was one of the beautiful effects of the ketamine on on one of my peers that I didn't expect. Um, After yoga, we did a little group opening and check-in. Um, Another gentleman, Glenn, was brought to tears. He says he deals with some chronic pain, aches, and joints, and yoga has been something he's tried that has always just made him angry because it hurts so bad. And he said, you know what? After the ketamine, I didn't feel the pain. And he was able to do yoga in a new and more inspired way. So, um, maybe research to be done there. Ketamine for chronic pain. I think there is research out there, ketamine for chronic pain. Um, Interestingly, interesting stuff. So, we do some yoga, met with Greg to help him get ready. And so I took notes in his journal. Um, and he was, again, he really wanted to deal with this anger. He sees himself as a warrior. He comes from a family with a lot of military service and people who have died in service, I believe, or at least had military service. And so felt he just needs to fight this fight. But one of the metaphors we use in psychedelic-assisted therapy, who comes from our predecessors in the 60s and 70s, they say, in some journeys, you'll encounter unpleasant things, unpleasant visions, dragons and demons and snakes. And they say, rather than running from it, embrace them, go to them, see what they need, what they're asking for in your mind. And that's what Greg and I talked about. I said, man, you need to find out. He imagined this cobra he was fighting. I said, you need to go to that cobra and see what's going on. That was his idea for his journey, right? And so then we go through. I get to have my lunch. It was a delicious, this kind of quesadilla salad with chicken. Oh, so good. Um, and then just kind of met in a room. Let's see. So Rob from the West Coast, we had talked previously. Rob is a self-proclaimed digital nomad. I'm like, dude, I gotta know more about this. And so we start chatting, and then Dan, the substance bald Dan from Boulder, the substance abuse therapist, we start talking about podcasting and YouTubing and digital nomading. I mean, we're just having a very cool powwow. Lance comes in, he's kind of joining and talking, and so we're all eating lunch, and then poor Greg, because Rob, Lance, and I all journeyed on Friday, and poor Greg comes in, he's like, must be nice to be eating lunch. But we, kind of connected. And one of the most amazing parts of that whole group was being in a room with so many like-minded people who understand this and want to engage in this kind of therapy, but really caring people, right? These are all therapists who do this kind of work every day. And that's cool. Was really kind of cool. Um, so yeah, we had lunch, got ready. Greg goes in. We sat on the same side of the room, and um, you know, Greg was one of the last to go in. He had been experimenting, had been treated with ketamine several times throughout the year. So he did, in fact, get a booster. We got to observe some other people going in. Ironically, Glenn, Lance's partner, it's so crazy how they paired us up and had so many good fits because if Lance was quiet the first day, Glenn was even, no, I'm sorry, not Glenn. Glenn had chronic pain. Bob was even more quiet and told us like I just don't talk much. And Bob talked a lot through his journey. If Lance liked his, Bob really enjoyed his, and just had a good time through his journey. And it was interesting to see as the therapist this time. I'm present with Greg, but he was so easy, right? He had had experiences before. He kind of just had his hands on his chest or his belly, his heart area, and just kind of did some deep breathing into the ketamine experience. So I was attentive to him, but got to also observe other things going on. Bob going into his journey, and then there was another student who really, of all of us who journeys, nearly 30 of us that weekend, she had an obvious difficult time, right? When she processed it later, it was still helpful, restorative, and therapeutic. Unfortunately, she really struggled with embracing, working through, as we say, some previous difficulties. But for me, watching how the staff handled that, how they helped her, how they embraced, right? One of the things we go through before ketamine is, where are you comfortable with touch, right? Can we grasp your hand? Can we hold your hand if we feel you're in distress, or do we only do that if you reach out? Many people find, because we just have some weighted blankets on, somebody just kind of putting their hand on their feet can be helpful. And so watching the staff embrace that, help her through this difficult experience to remind her, hey, we're here, you're okay. Um, was truly powerful for me. Watching that, the other side of the group experience was very powerful. Um, Greg gets through his experience. He was so funny because, as a therapist, I wanted to help him integrate. I'm very in tune with him. Hey, what do you need? Can I get your lunch? Do you want to go talk? And he, being a giver as well, he was there with actually a couple other people from his practice. And so he, went and had to check on them as I'm trying to check on him. And we kind of joked all weekend, like, he says, I'm sorry, I was running away from you. I just needed to check on my people. And then he also, much like me, just wanted some space and time to integrate. So I kind of gave that to him. Um, we met again as a group, did some integration. People talked about their experiences. And I shared where I was in that moment. Here it is, the last full day. I was feeling pretty immense sadness, recognizing the power, and I'm sure I haven't conveyed it here today, but the power of what I was experiencing. 30 like-minded people, led by four consummate professionals, amazing staff and therapists in their own way. Um, and I knew it was going to end the next day, right? And I knew I had to find a way to take that with me. So we wrapped. My wife picked me up and we went to dinner. I think I was in bed even earlier and up even earlier the next day. Where's my Sunday notes? Hmm, I didn't write any Sunday morning notes. I did. I think I just got up early Sunday morning. Oh yeah, I did. There it is. I got up earlier Sunday morning. Oh, yeah, because that's why. Sorry, some more notes from everybody else's journey. So I forgot. I got to write notes as I'm being therapist on what everybody else is going. As Rohini and her, I believe it was Emily, her assistant, are administering ketamine to everybody, the joy in which they did that, the sacredness, the holiness was truly stirring. And literally they were dancing around the room together, administering to this people. It was just beautiful. At 1:30. I wrote, so they started ministering at 1. I write, what an absolute honor to witness the diversity of reactions. Some crying, some jubilant. The self-proclaimed quiet guy, that's Bob, has been talking the entire time. Um, a half hour later, because through this, I'm also documenting for Greg in his journal. Um, yeah, one journeyer was truly sobbing for quite a while, and it was awesome to watch the experience. Um, the closing circle, a little while later, I was reminded how important the preparation sessions were to be ready for that, to be able to embrace it. Um, Greg and I had a great preparation session that made the journey easy to sit and ideally more productive for him. And I noted this, and Tanya, whom I met first when I got there, was really working through some stuff, right? And for her privacy, I won't disclose too much, but she said something really powerful. In through her journey, she came to realize, you know, you can do hard things, right? An empowering statement. You can do really hard things. But then later, she realized I can do really hard things, but should I? And that was really powerful for me, recognizing, sometimes I think all of us, there's a balance between how we push ourselves and how we take care of ourselves. And that's important. Um, Up just as early the next morning, even earlier, but this time I made the intelligent decision not to make a cup of coffee in the room and wake my wife up, but I grabbed my gear. I went upstairs. There was a fireplace in the lobby, and I grabbed a cup of coffee and started writing. And here's some of the things I shared. As I'm integrating my experiences and Greg's, I said, being a healer is a blessing and a curse. The honor of seeing others, guiding them to a better place, but in doing so, we take on a lot of their hurts. And that was in response to Tanya talking about vicarious trauma that we take on as therapists that we need help dealing with. Um, I go on to write, but we can't do it of emotion, thoughts, and healing. As we send, we must also receive. Greg talked about being a shining light, and I wrote here, Greg, you can't be a shining light to so many without spending time, without absorbing some darkness. That's what I saw during the group receiving, many amplifying their joy, some working through the darkness. Yeah, that was what I experienced watching others, many amplifying their joy and some working through their darkness. For me, I must explore new ways of being a healer, perhaps new plans or places. I can't keep doing it the way I have. Not for my client's sake, not for my own sake, not for my family's sake. 2025 should be a very interesting year as I work to bring the healing power of the past 2 days and all the people I experienced into the world. And then I wrote some intentions here for the coming year. Those of you that listen for a long time know rather than giant goals, I write, a few words. One of them was Cardion. Cardion, the app I've been working with for the past year, is out there and live. Please download it and interact with it. But in a way, I see that as an opportunity to bring healing. Communities. There's something amazing in the group process, whether that's with ketamine or without. I run a men's substance abuse group online, and that's been amazing. And I want to find a way to do more groups, probably digitally, so that I'm committed to doing that. And that healing, I'll be honest, that's not just healing for the people in the groups, but there's something restorative in facilitating group healing for me. And then, of course, no psychedelic retreats, ketamine based. Um, Julie and I will be hosting our first one for healers, for therapists, for professionals, January 31st. And then we're targeting a date in April of next year to host one for anybody who's interested. So contact me directly or get on the Daniel A. Franz email list, and it'll be coming. Uh, so Sunday, an exciting but sad day as we all got lots and lots of hugs and high fives. We had a last integration circle, and this is what came out of my work with Greg. Our integration. We talked about the idea. I said, Greg, you don't have to be a warrior anymore. Maybe you're a snake charmer. Maybe that cobra you embraced is something that you wanted to fight is something you need to embrace, charm, and that he really took with him. Um, Another person wrote that the bad trips are not bad; they're amazing, both in psychedelics and just life. Tanya, this was beautiful. She said, "Why are the wounded the ones who are called to heal? You can do hard things, but do you have to?" Um, Corrine, again, just the serene Corrine. Oh, I just made that up. I hope she hears that. She went back and said, as we were talking about going back into the world after this experience, after this connectedness, after the intensity and the beauty, um, she says, we all have to wear our masks. How can you put that mask back on, but do it in the most authentic way? Man, that's an interesting one. We all wore masks. How do we go back into the world and do it in the most authentic way? That wraps Sunday. That wraps Sunday of the practicum. Um, I'll tell you something about ketamine. It leaves you raw. So for those of you thinking about journeying, I would certainly plan your following days correctly. Um, I would say I don't think I did because we get done Sunday around noon. My beloved Steelers are on TV. In fact, they are on a giant TV outside at a brewery in Longmont, Colorado. And I thought that would be a good idea. It was, and it wasn't. It was nice to go watch my beloved Steelers outside. Again, 45 degrees, but sitting in the sun was just spectacular. But probably shouldn't have had that beer. I think in some ways, alcohol after ketamine definitely interrupts, doesn't fully interrupt, but it definitely maybe diminishes the true neuroplasticity I could have gained. I spent some time with my wife. We toured some other communities. She wanted to show me places where she really wanted to live in houses that we could never afford. Had some dinner and got to bed early because Monday I had a meeting for Cardion, so got online and did that in the hotel room, and then took the long trip home. Got to the airport and probably got back to Farmville. Oh, I don't know. I was in bed by midnight and back to the practice the next day. I am still integrating that experience in a beautiful way. That our group started a group chat, and so we are all continuing to share our experiences darn near every day, hour by hour. Um, Still working to connect with Dan and Rob and Lance and Greg in a way, talking about podcasting and things like that. I am sure we will get them on the podcast here soon. And I'm certainly trying to continue to put healthy things in my brain. Uh, Podcasts and reading and just trying to slow down, but that's hard. It's hard when you're out there trying to help other people. But as I wrote here, um, a return to normal is normal. We can't, that was truly a peak experience, and we can't live in peak experiences, right? It just you can't, or it wouldn't be peak. Um, and so trying to continue to do that, and then looking forward to the next time I get to interact. Greg and I have chatted a few times and connect more. And we'll probably do that. So upcoming, there's a few things I wanted to share with you. There are many ways to do ketamine. To do ketamine assisted therapy, IV in Julie's office with me, or you can find your own local provider. That is a little difficult. She is, 20 miles away from my office, and it takes some time to get up there. Um, you can do intramuscular in our retreat setting. The cool thing about intramuscular, even though you don't get the full dosage, is you're more mobile. You're not hooked up to an IV. So, you can kind of like you're not getting up and dancing with ketamine, but you can move your arms a little bit more freely and jam with the music, as I call it. Um, and then there is sublingual, which I am, I will be licensed and approved to administer sublingual through a secondary organization soon. So we can do ketamine assisted therapy via IV or IM, IV in Julie's office, IM through the retreat process, or we will be doing ketamine treatment in my office here soon. So you can look forward to that. If this is something you are interested in, please contact me. You can find me at danielafranz.com, DANIELAFRANZ.com. All the socials are there. You can email me directly. You can interact with me on the socials. You know, thank you. Just sharing that was a part of my integration, and I appreciate you taking the time and listening to the experience. As always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day. Take care.